I am Fedora Quattrocchi, National Institute of Geophysics, University Tor Vergata. I am very interested about what Marianne read in our speaking today, but I want to focus the attention about what happened on field, not only by reading or by telling about the public awareness and public acceptance. So I am dealing with the dark moon, dark side of the moon of energy, so underground production of energy and resources. In set plan energy, this part of dark side of the moon is under-evaluated in my opinion, because all the sectors dealing with the underground production of energy are now stopped, mostly in Italy, but I think that in Europe the situation is not so good. I'm speaking about CO2 storage, natural gas storage, hydrocarbon production, geothermics, shale gas production. All these part of the energy need a big effort about the institutional decisors, because we have the problem of conflict of interest. Because if the hydrocarbon companies cannot do monitoring alone, they have to do that with a third-part public institution. But if third-part institutions are connected, joined with conflict of interest with the private part, this is impossible, because the situation now is very critical. So my question to Gilberto Dialuce and to Marianne is why the situation is arrived at this point. Because we have in Italy Commissione Chiese, in which the first question was if feasibility studies created a condition for earthquakes of magnitude 6. And this is completely irrational, because a feasibility study cannot produce earthquakes underground. What they think about, because reading is a thing on field for us, in the front end with the population, is completely different. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll try to answer for the Italian situation, absolutely. The public acceptance of certain activities, mainly exploration and production, storage, underground storage, CO2, carbon capture, is very difficult in Italy, as we all know. Why we arrived at this point, this was the question. It's very difficult to say, because in Italy, as you know, it's very difficult to have a public discussion about the energy issue on a technical basis. We have seen that a lot of energy infrastructure had a lot of opposition by local municipalities, and it's very difficult also for us in the ministry to try to have a real debate on the actual environmental impact assessment. We have all the procedures that are performed by our Ministry of Environment to do so, but it's very difficult to have a discussion based on the technical elements. What we can do now, we are implementing an European directive that will include the so-called public debate that already in some other member states is used to try to discuss in advance with local municipalities all the aspects of an energy project, thus to have some general comments in the very preliminary stage of the project that can be taken into account by the promoter to be included in their impact size. So I think that there is a lot of work in Italy, especially in Italy, but it is not only a problem for us. Some other member states are encountering the same problems. So I think that all the different techniques that has been discussed before in the previous intervention could be used to enhance this dialogue among the promoters, the public administration, and for example, our ministry, that is the ministry who is responsible for grants and authorization to build.
Thank you very much. Please, short questions, short answers. I saw here a question. I don't know if there were other questions. There, okay. Then the next will be here.
My question is very quick. We already done something very interesting regarding the energy and the citizen. In the south of Italy, we're trying to stop drilling the sea, drilling the valleys. So citizens get together when they see things going wrong, like cancer, like not being able to control the future. So there is the possibility also in Italy to do this.
Thank you for that comment. I think you are completely right, and that you have different modes that you can engage people and they see what are happening around them. So I think the community perspective and the bottom-up approaches, I think it might have been what you're talking about is very important in that respect.
Thank you.
Well, I think that there are other, say, thought, because of course the sustainable energies are by definition distributed in the territory, and then of course the possibility of a democratic management is there, while it is already shown clearly that fossil fuels imply a very high concentration of power and capital that are have the possibility of really orienting decision, even by formal democracies, in their interest. So this is something that has to be taken into consideration.
Was a comment rather than a question. Other questions? Yes. First row.
So we are close, it's easier. No, just two very quick comments. One is on a phrase which came out on the screen, which was that energy is a derived demand, probably from you. And I think energy is an enabling answer, not a derived demand. And I would like you to comment on this, because it changed the paradigm, actually. Because in one case, you put the focus on the output and on the diversification of the use, but in some way, you place the system in another view, like something which cannot be so substantial. Which is clearly a change of paradigm not easy to comply with, not at least from when you have the generation in mind as a central point. And the other question is to the other colleague which had the last spoke, which is you commented on the success, the different success of the loans by the US government on Tesla and Solinda, which are very well-known examples. Do you think that if the Chinese would have at that time the same interest in the electrical vehicle technologies, the Tesla funding would have been a successful one? Do you think that if at that time the Chinese government had such an eager will to compete in the field of electric mobility, like it had at that time on photovoltaic market, the Tesla loan would have been a successful one, I mean, this is a joke, basically. The real matter is we are dealing very strongly with research. And always we have to frighten about the opportunity that somebody with the financial opportunities come and change the role, change the game. I think that for this community, this is a real central point, because we put a lot of effort in developing research, in developing solutions, in developing technologies. It's very important that Europe is able to maintain up to the final market valorization these opportunities that came from research. I start from the joke of your affirmation, but just to suggest this reflection.
Anne, please.
Me first. on the question specifically about Tesla, I think that the Chinese are very interested in electric vehicle technology and have been working very much in that area. What's interesting is that Tesla has announced a major battery initiative of its own. So where the Chinese are really strongest is probably in the battery technology and managing battery or manufacturing of batteries on mass scale. But Tesla is doing something very similar. With the money that it raised from the IPO, which it was able to do because of the money that it got from the US government. But to be fair, I believe that Tesla is successful not just because of money from the US government. It's successful for lots of reasons, mainly because its key investor made a lot of money from PayPal. So Elon Musk was the founder of PayPal. He made a lot of money. He reinvested it elsewhere in electric vehicles. And it's much more successful. There were failures in electric vehicles, which also received a lot of money from the US as well. So Fisker Motors went bankrupt and also had received a lot of money. So I think it's more to do with good management, good strategy. It's not necessarily even the best technology in the world. It's the right business model at the right time in the case of Tesla. Does that answer the question?
Marianne.
Yes.
The first part of the question.
Yeah, I will try to answer it. I admit I can't hear very well what you're saying, but I understood the question about derived demand, or rather whether it's rather to enabling use of electricity and services. This is, of course, a correct perception, but the main point is that energy is not seen as a commodity in itself, and that's the point that I'm making. It's not the energy per se that is consumed by people that is considered as important for them. So if you only look at consumers or people as consumers, you will only get that part of the equation. And there are other ways that are much better to study people and the way they behave, the way they do. And if you look at practices, and if you look at driving, for instance, and how people operate their homes, their everyday lives, you get a much richer and more realistic picture of behavioral and the possibilities for behavioral change as well. Yes.
Thank you.